And we have returned. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. We're going to bring Daniel Turner on. Daniel, how are you doing today?
Great to hear from you, Beth Ann. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I hope you have a great weekend. You know, I don't know if you heard any of my monologue, but I've got callers holding. Do you mind if I go to a couple of them real quick?
Please. Absolutely.
Well, the question that I threw out was, what is the biggest threat today here in the USA? So I'm going to go to Neil from Missouri. Neil, how are you today?
Oh, a little rainy here. Trying to stay dry.
Yep.
But the biggest threat, ignorance.
I think you're right.
Ignorance is the biggest threat. Hosea 4:6 laid it out for you. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. Seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. Our children are no longer being raised in the law of God. They're being raised in the legalities of man. Primarily, which are based upon satanic practice.
You know, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I mentioned that Dan Bongino had said that the left, particularly those who want big government, let's just not just say the left, that government is their God. And
Exactly.
And we've been kind of messing that up for them, and they're really angry about it. And so, unfortunately, they're more angry about losing their God with a little g than we have been about the abuses of our God, the big G. So I agree with you 100%. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate the call and the reminder, as always. We're going to go to Roger in New Mexico. Roger, real quick, what's on your mind?
I'm going to switch to what you're talking about. The biggest threat is anybody that attacks the U.S. Constitution.
Okay.
And anybody that attacks the Electoral College system is doing that. And I'll tell you why. And if you read the Constitution, when they spell out the definition of the Senate and the House of Representatives, the Electoral College is a mirror image of that. The Electoral College has to be the same as the Senate and the House of Representatives. You can read it yourself. It's in the U.S. Constitution.
All right. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
But if I have a quick one for Taylor Swift special at KFC, you can get them now. They have skinny legs, small breasts. And
All right. Okay, Roger. That's enough. All right. Appreciate the call. Have a great weekend. Daniel, we've been talking about the biggest threat. Sometimes, you know. Anyway, we've been talking about the biggest threat. And yesterday's show was about the Electoral College. I don't know if you know Tom DeWeese, but if you don't, you need to familiarize yourself with Tom DeWeese. And he would be right up your alley with Agenda 21 is his expertise, as well as other things with the Constitution. And Agenda 21 and some of these things are why we have the regulations and that we have in the environmental group, that environmental areas, and why they're trying to stop our production of our energy and switch it all over. So, you know, but we were talking about the Electoral College yesterday. But what's going on in the energy world today?
And I can even tie it to what are our biggest threats right now. And I think one of our biggest threats, which ties into the energy space, is the wealth of the radical green movement.
Oh, wow.
The paid protesters, right? I don't know if you saw some images of even the caravan that's moving across Central America getting paid. The protesters at the Kavanaugh hearings were paid, and some of the biggest names in green energy, Tom Steyer, Mike Bloomberg, George Soros, the amount of money they're pumping into the 2018 midterms. Tom Steyer just announced another multi-million-dollar ad buy for Andrew Gillum in Florida for the gubernatorial race. Andrew Gillum's basically, and he's an admitted conservative, going back to your first caller, Neil, who talked about ignorance, right? I mean, when you are that ignorant of American government, you're that ignorant of history, it's easy to be a socialist because you're ignorant. But these folks rise because of the backing of elite, ideological billionaires with a lot of money, and something has to be to be done to address it.
You know, I was thinking earlier this week when I was watching all these things with the immigrants coming. I call it an invasion because 4,000 people is not a few wanting asylum. And I thought, I was sitting here thinking, I never said it out loud, but I was sitting here thinking that how are they, they're coming across here and some people have donated vans to them and blah, blah, blah. They're getting paid to do this. This is no accident. It's not a coincidence that's happening just before November 6th election. This is it's all planned out. It's a manipulation. And they're going to jerk at the American people's hearts. They're going to say, oh, they're taking the children and da-da-da-da-da, and they're going to go on and on and on about it. But I was sitting here thinking, where are they eating? Where are they going to the bathroom? Where are they taking, they're not coming in here in with their tents and a caravan, like they did wandering in the wilderness. That's not what's going on. And
exactly.
You're absolutely right that they're being paid.
Yeah, and it's the same type of paid activism we see in the green space. Just anyone who picks up the newspaper or watches TV, anytime you see an environmental protester was arrested for XYZ, I probably get dozens of media clips every day telling me about protesters. And those are the questions that you exactly nailed it, Beth Ann. Where did they eat? Who gave them money? How did they know where to go, right? The signs they had, the equipment they had. You find these protesters from Seattle who go into rural Minnesota to shut down a pipeline. And my first question is, how the heck did they know where to go? I mean, that's 1,000 miles
Where did
away.
they find it?
It's fake, it's manufactured, it's manipulation, and it's paid for by folks like George Soros and Tom Steyer, who have a radical agenda, and we need to push back on it.
And their agenda is to do away with the USA. They want to tear this country down to, my late boss used to say they can't build us up, so they can't build the other countries up, so they got to bring the United States down to third world status. That's why they want to open borders. That's why they don't want any national citizenship pride. They don't want any of that going on. They don't care about the safety or the jobs of the people who are actually citizens of the United States of America. And these paid protesters and these paid caravans, and that's exactly what I'm thinking. Would they go out and find some coyotes and tell them, listen, we'll give you X amount of dollars we'll give you so much money for each person you bring in here? I mean,
exactly.
It's very simple to do it. If you got money. I couldn't do it.
There are statistics that anyone who has the slightest fiber of even beyond patriotism, just humanity, there are statistics that we should be celebrating, with wages rising, with unemployment rising, with just families finally feeling the first effects of a little bit of prosperity. And there's a large percentage of radicals in this country who think this is all bad. They don't want to see Americans prosper. They don't want to see the energy industry grow. And they look at coal miners in West Virginia or Kentucky, and they look at them as truly like an enemy of their agenda. I'm doing some work with the coal community in Kentucky. A statistic that just blew my mind: 14% of all births in rural eastern Kentucky, because of their poverty now, 14% are born with opioid traces and addiction in their blood. Newborn babies.
And what is it that Hillary said to the coal miners? I'm going to put you out of business.
Exactly.
I mean, and then she tried to retract that, but that's exactly what she said, and that's exactly what they have been trying to do.
And where's the compassion for that community? So I understand the compassion for the migrants in Central America, but what about the compassion for the coal communities of eastern Kentucky and West Virginia and Pennsylvania and Ohio that President Obama destroyed? Absolutely destroyed their community, their livelihood, their way of life. And you can expand upon that further with your audience, the manufacturer, the small farm owner.
It affects everything. Absolutely.
Where's the compassion for them and their livelihood? And so that's, I think, our biggest threat, are these paid ideologues. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe that's another conversation. I don't want to say you have to limit money, you have to limit contributions. I believe in free speech. But that's why I started this organization, Power the Future, to helpfully highlight, look, those protesters, don't believe them. It's fake. It's phony. Let them bang a drum and scream and yell, but this is not a real protest. And we shouldn't set policy because of it. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And it is, the right answer, or the answer to it, the solution is education. And there's very few. I mentioned all these talking heads, but very few of them talk about this. They may casually glance over it, but they don't talk about what's really happening in America. We're headed into that first break, or it's not the first break, it's the second break of the hour. Do you want to stick around with us? We got some callers. We got a lot to talk about, or do you need to go?
I wish I could. I really wish I could, but I'll be with you next week.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. You have a great weekend. We're headed into a break. I've got some callers. I thank you. Thank you for holding in your patience, and we'll be with you when we get back. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. It is Free for All Friday, and we're getting fired up. 877-895-5410 is the number to call, and America will be right back.